let's get into it, shall we? Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Wednesday wide receiver live stream for Week 18 of technically the 2023 fantasy football season. For those of you guys who are in a Week 18 championship, I'm here to help in regards to presenting my top 36 wide receiver rankings, answering any and all questions you guys have in regards to the wide receiver or any position, to be honest, going into this weekend. Again, there are 2 games on this upcoming Saturday. There are a bunch of games on Sunday. I'll be live streaming on both Saturday and Sunday. I'll continue to put out daily live streams tomorrow in regards to the tight end position, Friday in regards to quarterbacks. But what we experienced earlier today in regards to the information dumped to the public by these teams was quite significant. We got a lot of information regarding the potential of, who's going to start and who's not going to start. In regards to potentially like the Rams, who we were talking about yesterday, Kyren Williams already been deemed out along with Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald. So the assumption is that their team probably not going to be firing up, and looking for a W in that circumstance. They'll have Carson Wentz at quarterback. But even on the other side, Brock Purdy already been deemed out. Christian McCaffrey already been deemed out. There's probably a very low likelihood that we end up seeing Deebo Samuel, Ayuk, George Kittle play for long, if at all. We know that Puka Nacua will probably suit up for the Los Angeles Rams, and we'll talk about him a little bit later on in today's episode in regards to where I have him ranked. But the primary only reason they are suiting him up is because he's looking to try to break the record for most receptions and receiving yards by a wide receiver in NFL history. If I'm not mistaken, Jalen Waddle has the record for receptions in a season by a rookie, and the receiving yard total is by someone from 1960. So they're going to try to suit him up and see if Carson Wentz can dot him up a couple times early in that game and then get him out of there. Either way, welcome. Hope you guys are doing well. I'll be here for however long you guys have questions in regards to this week. I know for a fact that earlier today it's been confirmed that Patrick Mahomes is not going to play. I know that Travis Kelce is about 16 yards away from his 1,000-yard season, so he could potentially play in that circumstance. Time will tell, of course. We know that Nick Mullins will be starting for the Minnesota Vikings, which absolutely helps Justin Jefferson and his potential for our teams. We already know that they're going to be trying to fight for a playoff spot, but outside of that, if you guys have any questions, let me know. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and transition the rankings onto screen. A couple reminders, first and foremost, for those of you guys who want to go ahead and continue to play fantasy. Perhaps you've already surpassed Week 17 and you don't have a Week 18 championship, but you're here anyway just to show some love. If you guys want to go ahead, draft some teams for this upcoming weekend or for the NFL playoffs, or potentially put together some pick'em slips, you can do so via Underdog Fantasy using code Andrew today. Check out the map to the right side of the screen to determine your eligibility based on your current location. Thank you very much for all the support. There's a link down in the description. But let's talk about wide receivers, specifically in regards to matchups. As you guys can see, we've isolated wide receiver receiving statistics between weeks 5 through 17, the last 12 games that each team has played. And obviously, we know that the Philadelphia Eagles, Washington Commanders, Detroit Lions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, these are the matchups we want to take advantage of, right? So the Philadelphia Eagles, even though they're taking on the Giants, you just go back a couple weeks with Tyrod Taylor in the second half, Darius Slayton, a great play. Last week, Darius Slayton had another great game, and Wan'Dale Robinson played well, so maybe both of them can be options. I have them both ranked in my top 36 as of this week. The Washington Commanders obviously can't stop a soul, so CeeDee Lamb for another consecutive week should play well along with the likes of Brandon Cooks. The Detroit Lions, of course, they'll have their hands full with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, etc. Some of the more disadvantageous matchups as we typically go through, I want to go ahead and present them just so that we're all on the same page. If you want to look at these graphics for an extended period of time, you can go ahead and pause the live stream and fast forward back to the live. Either way, let's go ahead and let's talk about our top 36 wide receiver rankings for Week 18. Now, again, like I mentioned earlier, with Blaine Gabbert already being named the starting quarterback of the Chiefs this week, let me actually check this out. Yeah, so considering he's already been named the starter and that they're going to rest Patrick Mahomes, I don't have any of the Chiefs wide receivers ranked here. Not a single one. So the assumption is that, Rashee Rice, who would probably be the only guy that would be of value, not here. I don't have Cooper Kupp here because he's already been deemed out. Because of Brock Purdy's absence, there still could be value for Ayuk and Deebo Samuel, but I don't expect them to play for very long, considering they've already secured the number 1 position. I also don't have Zay Flowers included on the list because the Baltimore Ravens, again, are probably going to be in a position, if in fact they even play as an offense, they probably play their first team, maybe for the first quarter, maybe for the first half, and then they're done. So if you're looking for those players, they are not included. But everybody else that could potentially be in that conversation of top 36 is here. I mean, obviously we have studs on the top. We have players that are obviously a little bit questionable. Jaden Reed, number 12. He did have a limited practice session earlier today, which is a great sign. So did Cortland Sutton, even though he's coming off a concussion protocol. So hopefully both those guys will be available, ready to go and fired up. Okay, let me go ahead and bounce over to the live chat. If you have any questions in regards to anything, whether it's, I mean, if you have a keeper question, you have a question for this week, you just have a statement in regards to just talking fantasy in general or talking the NFL, ask away. I'll do my best to answer. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Tano, if you're still here, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Travis says, let's see here. Okay. You the man, bro. I'm in the championship in both of my leagues. Awesome. No problem. Glad I can help, Travis. And then Painter7 says 3 leagues, 1 Super Bowl. The other one I got second place, and then the other one, Super Bowl, is this week. You helped all this year. Thanks very much. Yeah, no problem. I'm glad I can help, Painter. Let's see here. Flexkey says, how much playing time you think Nakua will get? I don't think he'll get much. So again, he only needs 26 receiving yards. Is it 26 or is it 29? Let's see here. Puka Nakua record. Let's see here. So he needs 29 receiving yards and 4 receptions to break both of the rookie receiving and reception records all time. So I don't think that'll take more than a half of football, to be honest. Now, he could very easily go for 100 and score a touchdown, but I want to be very cautious that I don't start Puka. So there could be 2 potential outcomes here. Puka Nakua against a potential second team San Francisco 49ers secondary, goes out there, dominates with Carson Wentz, and has a massive game in the first half and then leaves. Or he just shows up, gets 4 catches easy on a bunch of, bubble screens. They get him his 29 yards, and he's out. I don't know. I mean, the fact that they're not starting Stafford, Kupp, Donald, etc., Kyren Williams, already gives me the indication that they don't care if they win. They don't care who they play in the NFL playoffs. They just want to be healthy with their most important players. And I 100% believe that Puka Nakua is in that list of their most important players, but they need to ensure that he breaks this record because it would be incredible for him to start out his career accomplishing that. So probably the first half. I think that's enough to get it done. James Key in the chat says, Pickens, Zamir White, Godwin, Singletary, pick 2. What's your scoring format, James? I think that makes a huge difference in terms of the overall conversation there. Puka Doncic says, why are Lions players starting? And for how long do you think? So the reason why they're technically playing is if, in fact, the Dallas Cowboys lose this week to the Washington Commanders, and you may be thinking, well, it's probably impossible. Sure, it technically should be impossible, but last year, week 18, they lost to the Washington Commanders. So if, in fact, the Dallas Cowboys lose to the Commanders and the Lions win against the Minnesota Vikings, they would be the number 2 seed, and then they would have home advantage. So if, in fact, they were to play Dallas later in the season, the tiebreaker technically wouldn't be in the favor of the Cowboys. It would be just in terms of the record advantage for the Lions, and they'd have the home stay. So basically they'd be home field until they play the San Francisco 49ers, assuming all the favorites won or all the home teams won. But yeah, they should be firing up their guys. I mean, if they only play for a half, I think we'll get more information on that as the week progresses. Amy says, hi, thanks for the content. 20 points in playoffs. Okay. With players not playing, should I start Tua, Carr, or Geno? All right, let's see here. Tua, Carr, or Geno? Tua is, okay. That's an interesting one. So I would probably play Tua under the assumption, because we know that Raheem Mostert and Jalen Waddle didn't practice. Neither of them practiced earlier today. So Amy, if in fact Jalen Waddle is active by the time we get to Sunday's game against Buffalo, I would say fine, let's play Tua. Otherwise, I'm perfectly happy pivoting to Geno against that Arizona Cardinals secondary that has played awful all season long. So that's the direction I'm leaning towards. Tua, if Waddle's available. Otherwise, we play Geno. Let's see here. Josh in the chat says, you see CD having a big day, or would they rest him? Facing him? Well, technically, no, they cannot rest him. So they have to win. Because if they lose that game and the Philadelphia Eagles beat the Giants, Philly wins the division. Because they're both 11-5 teams, if I'm not mistaken. Let me just pull this up just so I can confirm this. So yeah, as it currently stands, the Dallas Cowboys are 11-5, and so are the Eagles. So if the Dallas Cowboys lose this game and the Eagles win theirs, Eagles win the division and they get a home game, while the Cowboys would have to go on the road and probably play against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, assuming they win their division. So yes, they're going to go all out and try to win. So if in fact they're going to do so, CeeDee Lamb probably has himself a pretty impactful game, especially considering they're playing against Washington and their secondary has been one of the worst in the National Football League. And for fantasy purposes, has been one of the worst as of late. So yeah, I'm expecting him to play. Josh says, I'm facing him in the championship. I have Rice and Kyron already out. Yeah, that's tough. Anthony types in a question, says, this is my last week pick, 2 wide receivers, and my flex, DK Puka, Evans, Devontae Smith, Zamir White. Depends on scoring format. Assuming you play like in a half PPR, I probably end up playing Evans, DK, and Zamir White, unless we can get more information regarding Devontae Smith's injury progressing in the right direction. That's probably where I would go with that, Anthony. Free username says, do you think Jalen Hurts will play? Yes. Again, if they win that game and Dallas loses, they win the division. So I'm assuming they want to get back on track and have themselves a pretty solid day. I saw they're considering sitting their starters. I don't know what they've done in the past. I mean, last season, in the final week, they played against the New York Giants as well, week 18, if I'm not mistaken. In that game, Jalen Hurts played because he was returning from injury, and they wanted him to get a little bit of his rust and dust off, coming off of the injury that he sustained last season. But I would assume that they're going to start their players and they're going to try to beat the Giants. I don't see, unless they just are okay not having home field advantage, or they're okay not competing to win the division. If they're okay with that, then sure, they're not going to play him. But I feel like they should at least give it a shot. Bruce says, what do you think about Josh Jacobs' season this year? I mean, he was good until he got injured, right? Like overall, let's see here. Where are we at? If we go to, yeah, let's go here. Let me pull up. Let's see what Josh Jacobs. I mean, obviously, post Josh McDaniels era, significantly better, right? I mean, that's kind of a given. But prior to his injury, he was the RB number 11 in fantasy football. So pretty solid. I mean, I'll take that, especially especially when you take into account that he didn't have an offseason. He didn't go to, the OTAs. He didn't go to training camp. He didn't have a contract. All that considered, RB 11 prior to his injury, I think it's a pretty solid season. Let's see here. And then obviously, if you were smart enough to pick up Zamir White and put him in your bench, Zamir White, 10 plus points each of the last 3 games, and he's pretty much kind of carried the torch for our fantasy playoffs. Dylan says, I need 2 running backs and a flex and a full PPR. I got Connor, Hall, Taylor, Bijan, and Olave. 2 running backs and a flex. You have Connor, Hall, Taylor, Bijan, and Olave. Okay, so the 2 running backs that I'd play in a full PPR are Connor and Hall. As for your flex, I probably end up... it's between Bijan and Olave. Olave had a pretty good outing last time out against the Atlanta Falcons. Last week, a little bit of a no-show. I'm assuming he'll be a little bit better off this week. I'd probably end up playing Bijan as your flex, to be honest. I'd probably go Connor, Hall, and Bijan in that circumstance there, Dylan. Up by 50 in the chip, and I want to make sure I don't choke. Yeah, I think you'll be fine. I think those guys will be able to deliver. Let's see here. James Key was saying it's a full PPR. Got it, James. Thank you. So as for Pickens, Zamir, Godwin, and Singletary in a full PPR, at that point, I'd be very comfortable playing Pickens and Godwin. They've done enough at least Godwin has done enough in the last month in terms of target opportunity and production to convince me. And at least the last 2 weeks of what we've witnessed from George Pickens is enough to convince me there in a full PPR to also go with him, considering Mason Rudolph has gotten the start once again this week. Casey says, yo, standard scoring. I need 2 wide receivers from DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, and Garrett Wilson. Any advice is appreciated. Yeah, no problem. So in a standard scoring format, we're pretty much depending on potential touchdown upside and or yardage. Between the bunch of players that you have here, I don't think I could trust Garrett Wilson to to score a touchdown. I'm sure he'll be able to get himself his like 7 catches for 70 yards, and he'll kind of be able to play off of that. Diggs has been so inefficient as of late and just been given a very, low opportunity share within that offense. So I probably don't look in his direction, despite the fact that last time out against the Miami Dolphins earlier this season, yes, he had over 100 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. But as soon as the offensive coordinator has changed from Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady, there has been less of an effort to get the ball consistently in the direction of Stephon Diggs. And Josh Allen in the passing game doesn't look great. I mean, last week, what was he, like 10? I think it was like 15 of 30 passing against the Patriots. That's not a great game. So of the available options you have, I probably take DJ Moore and Devontae Adams. Those are the two that I probably roll with. Devontae Adams last week had 21 targets. That is literally, if I'm not mistaken, I looked it up earlier in the week. 21 targets is like the 6th or 7th most all-time by a wide receiver in NFL history in a singular game. He like 21 targets, 13 catches, 126 and 2 touchdowns. Like that kind of momentum hopefully continues on. That's what I'm looking for. Let's see here. After Casey, we had Flexkey said Mason or Mitchell or both. From what we've seen earlier in the season, when both are active and healthy, they clearly prefer to utilize Elijah Mitchell. So that's the direction that I would go in. Josh sends in a question, says, I got Kupp, Kyren, and Puka. Do you think any of them start? No. So we've already gotten information earlier today from Sean McVay that Kupp, Matthew Stafford, Kyren, and Aaron Donald are not playing this week. So Puka would be the only guy that technically plays out of those available options you have there, Josh. But even then, considering it's the backup offense and the backup defense probably going in for majority of the game there, Puka Nacua, I'm assuming, only plays for the first half, or as long as he needs to play until he breaks his 29 receiving yards and is able to get 4 receptions in order to break those records for most receptions and most receiving yards by a rookie wide receiver in NFL history. Amy was saying full PPR. Yeah, I think the full PPR doesn't really matter. It's just a matter of who's available for Tua and Geno. So yeah, we'll continue to keep with Amy going with Tua if in fact Waddle is able to clear his hamstring in practice by the end of the week and end up playing. Otherwise, I think Geno Smith's a better player within fantasy. John Silva says, think Alexander will shut down DJ Moore like week 1. There's a potential for it. There's always a potential for it. I mean, I think that this offense, and I think DJ Moore and Justin Fields' overall connection as the season progressed began to really build. Early in the year, it was non-existent until we got to that Thursday night game against Washington, until it kind of like really exploded in terms of the opportunity share being there. Like even in the game against Kansas City, I think it was either week 2 or 3 earlier this season, he didn't have a high target share. Sure, he scored a touchdown in garbage time when they were already down 40 points, but I think as the season has progressed, their rapport is built. They have a little bit more synergy. So I think there is a potential in which Jair Alexander isn't able to shut down DJ Moore outright. Curious Kid says, hey, bro, who should I play at tight end? Ferguson, Schultz, Johnson from the Saints. Tight end will be tomorrow, but if I was to try to play one off the top of my head as it currently stands, do I want to play? I would think that Schultz is very dependent on what happens with the other receivers. I know that Noah Brown and both Robert Woods as well are questionable. If both of them end up, or at least one of them end up potentially missing this week against Indianapolis, I think Schultz is probably the play out of the bunch. Otherwise, Juwan Johnson, who they play against, Atlanta. How is Atlanta against opposing tight ends? Let's see here. Earlier this season, what have tight ends done to them? I mean, Indianapolis had 9 catches for $109 against them the week before with a couple tight ends. Robert Tonyan, obviously Cole Kmet didn't do anything because he was hurt last week. They're not the worst team against tight ends, but they've definitely given up some yardage there. Last time out, Juwan Johnson against that defense had 4 catches, 45. I'd probably lean towards trying to play Schultz if I can. If any of those receiving options are absent, he's probably the best play. Otherwise, I'd probably go Ferguson second, then Juwan Johnson third. But I'll have my rankings out tomorrow when we live stream tomorrow in regards to tight ends. But thank you for your question. All right, let's see here. Flexi says, is Keenan Allen not worth starting? He's not going to play, is he? From what I read earlier today, he didn't even practice. So I don't think he has any incentive to play at all. Let's see here. If I go to the 21 minutes ago, Chargers, Keenan Allen, Joey Bosa, unlikely to play versus the Chiefs. Yeah, so as expected, there's no incentive for him to play, so he will not be starting. And with Josh Palmer missing last week, he'll probably also not start this week. And the number one receiving target of that offense of the Chargers last week was, I think, Alex Erickson. So, I mean, I guess technically you could go in that direction, but I don't even know if we want to start that kind of player. Let's see here. Josh says, actually, let me skip these ads. YouTube wants to pop up ads. Josh says, you're the man. Appreciate you. No problem, Josh. Let's see here. Baymad says, pick 2, Zeke, Zamir White, or Herbert, full PPR. That's a good question. Zeke, Zamir White, and Herbert in a full PPR. If Foreman is out again as a healthy scratch, I could understand. Well, I think in a full PPR, I probably end up. Let me think about this. I know Green Bay played relatively well against Minnesota, but as of late, they haven't been great against running backs. Like they haven't been able to stop a running back in a couple years now. So outside of that game, Chuba Hubbard only had 40 and a touchdown, but Rashad White had 89, 86, 110, 71 and a 54 bomb, 50, 64. Yeah. At this point, I'd feel pretty comfortable rolling with Herbert alongside of Zamir White. Yeah, I'd be pretty comfortable there. That being said, I think the Jets are awful. And if Zeke goes back to catching the football, he's probably the best play of the bunch. So I think the safest play is probably going the safest play, assuming Josh Jacobs is inactive, is going Zamir White alongside of Zeke in a full PPR. Otherwise, if you're feeling a little bit spicy, we'll take Zeke and Khalil Herbert there. Let's see here. Are we good there? We're good. Okay, cool. We had a question. We had a couple super chats that were sent in. One from Julian. Julian says Olave, Zeke, Herbert, Olave, Zeke, Herbert, and Singletary full PPR. Choose 2. Yeah, if I'm choosing 2 of the 4, it's probably Olave and Zeke. I kind of want to play Singletary. Not Singletary. I kind of want to play Herbert just to see what his upside is, but it's tough. It is definitely tough. I think the Jets defense is not good enough to be able to stop this offense for the from the Patriots. Yeah, like even the prior question from Baymad, like I want to play Herbert over Zeke. I just don't know if I can do it. Because Herbert, his opportunity share as of late, the fact that they've been able to effectively run the ball, and then Green Bay really just cannot honestly stop the run this season, it leans me towards trying to. Would I risk it in week 18? No, I wouldn't. I think I just play it safe and go Olave and Zeke. If you want to go spicy, then we can go Herbert over Zeke there. Let's see here. Chris Price said, with Puka being risky, I have to turn to waivers. I have Noah Brown, Demario Douglas, Wando Robinson, Rashid Shaheed, and Darius Slayton available in a full PPR for the chip. Thank you very much. I mean, of the bunch, the most reliable as of late has been Darius Slayton. So I'd probably lean in that direction there, Chris. Puka Doncic says, Taylor, Puka, Diggs, Mostert, flex 1. If I'm flexing 1, let's say it's a half PPR, it's probably Jonathan Taylor. Trojan 3659 says, no trust in Giants wide receivers this week, Andrew. I have, 30, Darius Slayton, 36, Wando Robinson. Am I crazy? And then he said, oh, my bad. They're not right there. Okay, yeah. No, you're good. Let me grab my glasses, says Trojan. Okay, cool. Sean Gray says, full PPR, flex Pollard or Olave? I'd rather flex Olave, to be honest. Here's the thing. I will, there's a caveat to that. The Washington Commanders have not been able to stop a running back in, I would say, 10 weeks. Give me a second. I'm getting a phone call. Let me just answer real quick, and then I'll come back for a second. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. All right, so where were we at? Yeah, Pollard Olave. The caveat that I wanted to refer to, the numbers that running backs have put up against Washington has been pretty overwhelmingly positive. Like if let me go find the actual numbers. I mean, besides last week where McCaffrey in a half PPR had like 12. I know Elijah Mitchell had like 80 yards and a rushing touchdown. So obviously he stole a lot of fantasy points in that overall potential. But backfields in general have always dominated against Washington. I'm curious, did Pollard do anything against them last time? Pollard even last time out had 79 and a touchdown, 6 catches for 24. Like, and even Rico Dowdle scored in that game. Like every single running back has dominated up against this matchup, which leads me to believe, okay, like let me just put it into perspective. Breece Hall, 37 fantasy points. Kyren Williams, 22. Mostert, 11.6, while Achane, 23.8. Pollard with 19.3. Rico Dowdle's also scored in that game. Saquon with 28.0. Kyren Williams with 19.2. Ramondre Stevenson with 21. Swift with 13. Barkley with 17. I think it's probably, like, based on what we've seen matchup-wise, the better play is Pollard because of the inability of that defense for the Washington Commanders to stop a single soul. That would basically be it. But can I trust them to score a touchdown? I honestly can't. Like, it's not a guarantee every week, and that makes it tough. Definitely makes it tough. Let's see here. After Trojan, we had Amy who said, could also use help with 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs in a flex. Okay, sure. Have Gibbs, Montgomery, Kyren Williams, Barkley, Rice, Reed, Lamb, Collins. Could pick up Mitchell. Also, Browning is on the waivers if he's the better than Tua or Carr. I don't think he is. Not technically, no. But as for your 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and a singular flex, as of right now, Kyren Williams is not playing. Rashee Rice is probably not going to play. We know for a fact. Okay, so of the wide receivers that you would play, the 2 of them, Lamb has to start as number 1, and I think Collins has to start as number 2. Actually, if Jaden Reed gets a full practice by Friday, I'd probably even say let's take Jaden Reed ahead of him and just go Lamb and Reed. But for right now, as a contingency, we'll just have Collins as the number 2. As for the 2 running backs between Gibbs, Montgomery, Kyren, Barkley, considering Kyren is probably not going to play, and considering this entire scenario, if it's, let me scroll back up. What did Amy say? It's a full PPR. I probably end up playing Gibbs alongside of Barkley there as your 2 running backs. And then if Reed's not able to clear his injury, you play Montgomery in the flex. If he is able to clear his injury, you play Reed in the flex. That's the way I go about it. Emily says, hi, Andrew. My first championship ever, starting Hurts, Jacobs, Zamir on my bench, just in case. Cool. Khalil Herbert, Diggs, Nico, Chuba. My bench consists of Robinson, Nakua, Kyren, Jamal Williams, and Kirk. Any changes? As of right now, I don't know. Is Josh Jacobs even prepped to play? Like, why would they even play him? What's the incentive there? Yeah, as it currently stands, Josh Jacobs was listed as a non-participant in practice today and is already considered a game time decision. So probably not going to play. So luckily you do have Zamir White, which is great. So let's say, for example, you have Hurts, Zamir White, Khalil Herbert, Diggs, Nico Collins, Chuba Hubbard. Robinson, I'm assuming, is DeMarcus. You have Nakua, which I don't want to play really over them. Kyren Williams is not playing. Jamal Williams would only ever play. So I would only play Jamal Williams there, Emily, if in fact we're in a scenario in which Alvin Kamara is inactive this week against Atlanta. And then at that point, I'd be comfortable playing Jamal Williams in the flex, but probably not going to be the case. We'll just keep an eye on that as we progress as of right now. And then you have Christian Kirk there on the bench. Christian Kirk, he's been activated for the 21-day IR window, but I don't think he's probably going to be activated for this week. It'll probably be a playoff situation in which he gets activated, but we'll see. Maybe he ends up practicing and going. As of right now, I don't make any changes. I leave it as such. If the week progresses and Zamir and, of course, Jacobs trends towards not playing, Zamir takes that spot, and you would only ever swap Chuba out of there if Jamal Williams plays and Alvin Kamara is out. We had another super chat that was sent in from Paul Shepard. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. It says full PPR, Michael Pittman Jr. or Bijan Robinson. Ooh, I honestly prefer to play Bijan Robinson there. I like Michael Pittman Jr. a lot. I like the matchup against Houston's secondary as well. I don't think Houston's secondary has played particularly well this season, especially with the talent that they have there. But between the two, I think there's just as much of a safe floor with Bijan against such a terrible defense like New Orleans. And there's probably even more upside in a full PPR capacity. Casey says, bro, for real, Diggs been a diva lately. I mean, to be honest, if I'm like a GM or if I'm a fan of a team, I want my wide receivers like that. I want my wide receivers to be pissed off when they don't get the ball. Because honestly, like, the best wide receivers are typically the divas. They really are. And we know, and I've said it before earlier this season, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Like, there's a reason why AJ Brown complains as much as he does, is because he knows when he gets the ball, they win games. So when he comes out of a game from last week, 5 targets, 4 catches, 40 yards, and they lose to the Arizona Cardinals, we're left wondering, why did they lose? Well, you didn't get your best player involved, right? So I'm okay with him complaining. I'm pissed that he's not getting the ball. He needs to get the ball. He's the best player on that offense. Obviously, outside of, Josh Allen, but he's a connective point to Josh Allen, so they both benefit off of each other. Let's see here. Lethal Jake says Adams over Diggs. Hell yeah, won my chip. Congratulations. That's what we'll take, man. We'll take it. That's 2 years in a row where week 17, Devontae Adams is like a 30-point monster. Dylan says, are you doing defensive rankings this week? Yes. On Saturday and Sunday's live streams, I will have defense and kicker rankings available by then. Again, a lot of defensive rankings can adjust based on weather. And obviously we're in January, so could be snowing in some of these places. We'll keep an eye on it as we progress. Donovan Daniel says, Andrew, I need your help. Up by a point in my championship, and I need 2 QBs. My options are Derek Carr, Nick Mullins, Trevor Lawrence, and Gardner Minshew. I also have Pittman and Puka, Waddle and Ridley. Okay, so of the available quarterbacks that you have, okay, let's think about this. As of right now, I probably roll with like Carr and T-Law. If by the time we get to Friday, Saturday, if we don't get a full designation that Trevor Lawrence is going to play, you then pivot and just play Carr and Minshew. I don't really want to play Nick Mullins. I think he's going to throw interceptions, and if he doesn't play as well as he did last time out, which is possible, could be a disaster. So I'd go with Carr, T-Law. Otherwise, I pivot Carr and Minshew there. Adam says, do your views go down with fantasy leagues coming to an end? Of course, always. I mean, that's just the natural progression, right? We start in August, the views go up. The season begins, the views go up. And then it goes and it sustains until we get to probably, I think, the beginning of December, maybe the last week of October, depending on how people's records are. Viewership kind of tails off a little bit. But this year was great in terms of viewership. I mean, I think a lot of us were getting into the playoffs, and a lot of us were getting to, pretty deep parts of the fantasy playoffs. So we're in a good spot there. But yeah, in terms of viewership, yeah, it always goes down when we get to the end of the season, because why do people need to watch when they don't have any teams playing, right? But for those of you who are watching, even though you don't have a team playing, it is greatly appreciated. Thank you. Let's see here. Donovan Daniel says, I have Evan Ingram and Juwan Johnson at tight end. Yeah, I mean, I'm always going to start Evan Ingram there. I don't think I can bench him. The guy, I think did he set a record for like most receptions by a how many receptions does Evan Ingram have? I think it's he's 104 receptions this year. Can you imagine? He's 104 receptions. Like, dude, what a ridiculous number. Let's see here. Where was that? I think, yeah, Dirty Dan says no Tyler Lockett. Dude, I don't know. I thought about it, and I had him literally. Oh, no, Tyler Lockett's right here. What am I talking about? He's right here, 34. I was contemplating not having him on the list. I certainly was contemplating that. But I guess I pulled the trigger, and I got him on the list. Ryan says, what do you think of Diggs, Pickens, and D-Hop if you had to pick 2? So between those 3, right? Pickens has to play based on his recent production. Between D-Hop and Stephon Diggs, I always want to leave room to hope that Stephon Diggs can get the job done. I think it's probably just safer to play D-Hop against the Jacksonville Jaguars secondary. It probably is safer. but I always want to hold out hope that maybe Stephon Diggs turns it around. But yeah, if you're just looking for like a safe play, Diop is probably your guy. While Stephon Diggs is definitely the more volatile player within the two, and honestly, as of late, has done nothing to. He's done nothing as of late to deserve his current ranking, but it's what he's done over the years that continues to keep him in the top tier conversation, or the couple top tiers. Curious Kid says, what do you think who would you pick between Geno, Kyler, and Carr? Between the three of those, I probably end up playing Kyler 1, Geno 2, Carr 3. Amy says, would you play the Buccaneers, Patriots, Steelers, Raiders, or Saints as in defenses? Let me look at the schedule this week. Week 18. I haven't even gone into because there isn't a Thursday game. I've kind of taken it slow this week. But let's see what the schedule looks like as it stands for this week in terms of these teams. Okay, so I don't really want to play New Orleans there. I think Taylor Heineke will be fine, but I could be convinced otherwise. What else do you have there? You have Tampa Bay. I feel like Tampa Bay is just an automatic, assuming, of course, Bryce Young is going to play. If it's Andy Dalton, I don't want any business with the Buccaneers defense. Patriots are a solid play. Steelers, Steelers against the Ravens. I don't know what the Ravens are going to do, but I'm assuming it's going to be their second team. It'll probably be Tyler Huntley going out there. So they could be a solid play. Raiders against... So as of right now, I probably take Tampa Bay 1. I probably lean towards Steelers 2, Saints 3, Patriots 4, Raiders 5. In that order for that group that you mentioned there, Amy. John Silver says, in a half PPR, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, in a flex, we have DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill, Jordan Addison, Pickens, Kamara, Aaron Jones, Montgomery, Bijan. Also debating between McBride and Ferguson as a late tight end. Thoughts? Thanks for all the help this year. No problem, John. So 2 running backs, right? Between Kamara, Aaron Jones, Montgomery, and Bijan. Of the options, assuming Kamara is healthy, going up against Atlanta, I don't even love the matchup as a whole because, again, no running backs outside of Jonathan Taylor have scored a rushing touchdown against them. So, it's probably... Well, actually, technically, last week, the floodgates opened and there was 2 other rushing touchdowns there. Technically, but it was a snow game. I don't know. I got to think about that. So, for right now, the way that I'm leaning towards it, I'm going to play Bijan, and I'd probably play Montgomery next to him. And then I'd go Kamara 3, then Aaron Jones 4. But let's see what we have available. One of those guys probably, if it's a half PPR, I probably just go Bijan on Montgomery. I most likely end up playing Tyreek Hill and DJ Moore at wide receiver and then flexing Pickens. And then I'll probably play McBride there. America Jackson says, hey man, I had Lamar as my starter. Would you run Baker, Carr, Taylor, or Nick Mullins? Thanks for the help. No problem. Okay. So with Lamar potentially not playing, which would be extremely wise of the Baltimore Ravens, between the available options of Baker against Carolina, Carr versus the Atlanta Falcons, Taylor versus the Eagles, and Mullins versus Detroit, I'd probably play Baker. If I was to order it out, I'd probably go Baker, Carr, Taylor, Mullins in that exact order that you have it, as it currently stands. Luis sends in a question, says, choose 2 PPR, Elijah Mitchell, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Warren, Ty Chandler, and B. Robinson. I'm assuming that's Brian Robinson. If I was to pick 2 of the 4 in a full PPR, I'd probably end up rolling with... I'd probably end up rolling with Warren and Brandon Cooks. If there was more information available and we knew that like the entire starting offensive line of the 49ers were going to play, I'd be very comfortable going Warren and Elijah Mitchell. But for right now, until we get more information, it's probably Brandon Cooks and Warren. Donovan Daniels says, Andrew, can you answer my question, please? Yeah, I thought I answered it earlier. Maybe you're just delayed. It's fine. Awesome Monkey says, PPR, Zamir White, Jacobs, or Reed in the flex. If it's a full PPR and Jaden Reed gets a full practice by Friday, I'd play him without a doubt in my mind. Curious gets, okay, that's fine. You're talking to somebody else. Okay, Tano Martin says, play 2, Jefferson, Nakua, Ridley, Waddle. Probably Jefferson and Ridley. I'd play Ridley if Trevor Lawrence is active. If Trevor Lawrence is not active, I would look to try to play Waddle, assuming he is active and playing. So it's currently Jefferson, Ridley, Waddle, Nakua in that order. Sam Morales says, start 2 running backs, standard scoring, Kamara, Mitchell, Achane, Herbert, Hall, and Ford. I kind of have to play Hall in every circumstance, considering how well he's played as of late. Ford is probably not going to play this week because Cleveland, regardless of win or lose, are going to stay in the same position. So the starters are probably going to be benched. So out of the bunch in a standard scoring league, I'd probably go like Hall and Achane. Achane, assuming again Mostert doesn't play. If Mostert does play, I'd probably swap in Herbert and Hall and just have those as the 2 primaries. Sam. Sergio says, I have Godwin. Should I switch to Jaden Reed? Jaden Reed is a contingency. Like, he needs to be fully healthy. And if by the time we get to Friday, he is healthy and he's going to play this weekend against Chicago, then I'd say yes, I'd prefer to play him rather than Godwin against Carolina. No problem, Logan. Thank you very much. Ray MG says, sealed the chip because Reed didn't finish the game. Thanks for the help this season. Really? You won because Reed didn't finish the game? I mean, Reed had like 24 beforehand anyway. The Beaver says, I already won my league. However, I just wanted to, I'm just so used to watching Andrew. I do it anyway. Thank you very much, Beaver. Sam had a follow-up, says, start 2 wide receivers, Pickens, Metcalf, D-Hop, Slayton. Yeah, I mean, again, the rankings are on screen as for this week. I don't think it would really change as from going from a half PPR to a standard very much. I'd probably still end up playing Metcalf and Pickens there. Sven Dragon says, sat that Diggs. Okay, all right. Take it easy, Sven. Take it easy, brother. Take it easy. Pat M says, Andrew, what does it say? Do you have Underdog plays on your mind for this week? Yeah, look, so the thing about Underdog, we'll go over it in a little bit. Their plays aren't like fully fleshed out as of yet. Once we get closer to the weekend and they set their lines at all different positions, like the Saturday games, there's a little bit more besides just yardage. Now there's like receptions and touchdowns, all that kind of jazz. But yeah, there are a couple players that I'm trying to keep in mind, but for right now, there isn't. We'll go over it and I'll show you guys. There isn't like too much available as of right now in terms of plays. Sergio says Ferguson or Goddard. Yeah, I'd still lean towards Goddard there. Goddard's been playing very well as of late and getting a lot of opportunity. Steve says, I'm fighting for 3rd place. I hate that we have week 17, 18 combined championships. Yeah, I think ESPN is the only league that does that. I think everybody else typically doesn't have that as their like kind of base. But you should be able to change it before the season starts so you can kind of, fix it. Obed says, choose 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and a flex, full PPR. By the way, Dilo, I did see that. I'm going to get to that in a second. Choose 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and a flex, full PPR. Lamb, Puka, Addison, DJ, Gibbs, B. Robinson. I'm hoping that's Bijan, Achane, and Chandler for the chip. Okay, so the 2 running backs that I would play are Bijan Robinson and Achane. If it's not Bijan and that's Brian Robinson, then I would play Gibbs along with Achane. Moving on to wide receiver plays, Lamb has to play, and so does DJ Moore. And then I probably end up flexing. I'm assuming it's going to be Gibbs, Bijan, and Achane. So if that's the case, Obed, play all 3 of them, play 1 in the flex, and then play Lamb and DJ as your wide receivers. All right, so Dilo had sent in a very generous super chat. Dilo, thank you very much, my man. It says, I won 3 leagues out of 6. Andrew, your analysis and reasoning played a big part in that. So please take this donation as a token of my appreciation. Thank you very much. Can't wait for next season. Congratulations, Dilo. You've been around the channel for quite a while. I will literally, Dilo, as long as I live, I will literally never forget. What was it, 2020? Week 17, Rex Burkhead. I'll never forget it. Dilo comes into the chat on a Sunday morning. 2020, week 17, championship game. It says, Andrew, what about Rex Burkhead? And I was like, nope. Not interested, not at all. And if I'm not mistaken, let me go find this thing. Just out of the purposes of let's see here. I know Rex Burkhead hasn't played in the league in a while, or he played last year. I don't think he played a single lick this year. Obviously because of his injuries throughout his career. But if I go to 2020, is it 2020? Maybe it's 2021. It's 2021, week 16. My memory fades. 2021 week 16. He comes into the live chat, says, Andrew, what about Rex Burkhead this week? And I'm like, you know what? I don't like it. Rex Burkhead went for 27.9 fantasy points and a half PPR that week. Since then, Dilo's been a legend in the chat. Thank you, Dilo. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you again. All right, let's see here. Emily Doyle says, maybe a stupid question. There's no stupid questions. But should I drop the Saints defense for 49ers? There's also Steelers, Bucks, Rams, and Lions. So considering the 49ers and the Rams are not starting their primary guys, I'm assuming their defenses are also not going to include their primary guys for the entirety of the game. Again, they're trying to avoid injuries prior to the NFL playoffs. So I really don't want to touch the 49ers or the Rams defense this week. The Lions are okay considering, again, Nick Mullins is a turnover machine. The Saints are solid as of right now. The Steelers are also solid, and so are the Bucks. I mean, as it currently stands, the typical way that I would go about it is I want to start any defense against the Carolina Panthers because that's typically found a lot of success over the course of this season. Like in specific, let's see here. Carolina versus defenses. Let's see. Okay, so besides the really bad defenses, like as of late, Jacksonville with 18, Atlanta with 7, New Orleans with 21, Tampa Bay with 7, and then we had Tennessee with 10, Dallas with 21, Chicago with 7, Indianapolis with 26. Those are all just fantasy point totals against Carolina. Now, last time out, Tampa Bay versus Carolina, they gave up 18 points and only had 7 points as a defense. If I'm not mistaken, Bryce Young is the second most sacked quarterback in NFL history as a rookie. People are going to get after him. And I think Tampa Bay is probably looking to try to blow up that offense in order to try to get themselves a playoff spot confirmed. So I'm leaning towards playing Tampa Bay. I think I'd probably go Saints or Steelers. I'd probably go Saints second, Steelers third, Lions fourth in that order, Emily. Lenz said PPR, 2 running backs / wide receivers, plus 1 flex. Who do I choose? All right, Lenz, what do you have here? You have Puka, Lockett, Myers, Kirk, Christian Watson. I don't think he plays. And White, Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Chandler, Eckler, Williams, if Kamara is out. Okay, so of what you have available, for sure at running back, you're going to play Zamir White or Josh Jacobs, whichever one ends up going. As your second option, I think the second best is Aaron Jones. So those are the 2 that I would play there. As for your 2 wide receivers, between Puka, Lockett, Myers, Kirk, Christian Watson, I don't like any of them, to be totally honest. But if I had to play them, considering what is potentially available in your scenario, Puka and Lockett are my 2 highest ranked players. If Christian Watson does end up suiting up and going this week, he'd probably be at a limited capacity. Same thing with Christian Kirk. Jacoby Myers is my number 37, just outside of the list. So Puka and Lockett would be the guys there, and then I would end up probably flexing Eckler there. That's the way that I would go about it as it currently stands. Let's hear. Anadi says, do you think I should go Nico Collins or Zamir White or Khalil Herbert in the flex? Standard league, I'd probably play Khalil Herbert without even questioning it. In a half PPR, I'd probably go Nico Collins as well in a full PPR. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards. Steve says, for running backs, Kyron, Eckler, Mason, Ty Chandler, Zamir White, maybe Jaleel in a half PPR. I can't play the San Francisco wide receivers who carried me here. So CD, Olave, Waddle, I guess. Yeah, that seems about right, Steve. For running backs, Kyron is going to be out. Eckler's fine. I wouldn't play Mason. I would probably go with Zamir White and Eckler and then Ty Chandler as the 3 there, Steve. Nick says, had Juwan Johnson locked and loaded last week and switched it to Everett after listening to everyone's tight ends rankings. So done? Yeah, that's tough. That's definitely a tough one, man. Anadi says, Patrick Mahomes or Tyrod Taylor. Patrick Mahomes is not playing, so you have to play Tyrod Taylor. Any notable waiver wire options at quarterback for week 18? I think Tyrod Taylor is probably the best. Logan says, I won my Dookie Bowl because I picked up Reed and my opponent found out Waddle wasn't playing. No punishment for me. Congratulations on avoiding that. Marion says, start 2, Pickens, Brandon Cooks, Jalen Warren, Brian Robinson Jr., or Deebo Samuel. I don't expect Deebo to play for long. So if I'm playing 2 of the 3.5 PPR, I probably end up going with Pickens and Jalen Warren. Start both Steelers against probably a Baltimore defense that probably isn't going to have all their starters out there. Sergio Martinez says Steelers, Raiders, or Bucks, and why? Yeah, I think the matchup itself, just for the Bucks against Carolina, is the most favorable. After that, I probably go Steelers, and then I go Raiders last. Asher says, I remember that in regards to the Rex Burkhead, right? Yeah. Dre says, I have Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra, Chase, and Olave. Should I keep the first three as we'd like what? As weed/flex? I don't even know what that means. Or put Olave for one of them. I have Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra, St. Brown, Chase, and Olave. Should I keep the first three in as... So this is what I would suggest, Dre. The end of that question kind of confuses me. Maybe it's written correctly, but my brain doesn't know how to function it. I would play Devontae Adams, Amon-Ra, and I would play Olave. I'd probably end up benching Chase in that scenario. Dean Foster says James Cook, K9, Bijan Robinson, or Aaron Jones start two in a full PPR. James Cook, K9, Bijan, Aaron Jones. Bijan has to play. If K9's healthy this week against Arizona and he gets a full practice by Friday, I would play him as well. Those would be the two. If in fact K9 isn't able to practice by Friday and is inactive this week, I would go to pick up Charbonnet and play him. Otherwise, play Aaron Jones and Bijan. Emily, no problem. Dre says, also for running back, I have Montgomery, Singletary, who I'm deciding between for a full PPR. Yeah, I just play Montgomery. I think just the offense it's more in tune to get him the ball on the goal line in comparison. I think that's the biggest difference maker there in my mind. Anadi says, in a half PPR flex, Nico Collins, Khalil Herbert, or Zamir White. Yeah, I'd probably go Nico there. I really like the idea of playing Nico Collins against, within this week's matchup. Let's see here. Where are we at? Okay, we're good. Let me just catch up on some of these. Anadi had another question. Says, you'll drop tight end and quarterback rankings this week, right? Yes, tomorrow and Friday. The next 2 days I'll have live streams just like this. Hopefully, I'm assuming tomorrow will be the same time. I'll probably be on at 4:30 p.m. PST for an hour, just like we are today, just like we were yesterday and the day before. So I'll bring out those rankings tomorrow and Friday, probably a little bit earlier on Friday, but I'll give you guys an update tomorrow in regards to that. All right, let's see here. Free username says, feels like Christian Watson will go off sitting on my bench. Yeah, he probably, well, is he even going to play? Like, let's see here. Christian Watson. What is the report from earlier today? Let's see what they're, what are we seeing here? Christian Watson returns to practice. Yeah, look, here's the thing. Considering he's been out for 3 weeks, even though he's returning to practice, what we have seen multiple times this season is once these injured players come back from these hamstring injuries, specifically the two that we have seen it from Green Bay, Aaron Jones and Christian Watson, once they return from those injuries, the first week in which they play, they're limited in terms of overall snap counts. So, and we saw it even once he came back from the injured reserve. I think it was a Thursday night game against Detroit earlier this season. He only played a couple snaps. Sure, Christian Watson scored a touchdown, which he's obviously capable of doing. He was wide open in the end zone. No one was even covering him, but I'm worried about him being limited and that being an issue. Let's see here. We scroll down. We had a question from Asher who says, with Purdy sitting, who do I pivot to? Tyrod, Huntley, Driscoll, or Gabbert? I played Tyrod Taylor this week. Kraft or Kincaid in a full PPR tight end? Kraft or Kincaid? It depends on Musgrave. Let me see here. Luke Musgrave. Because Luke Musgrave has been out because of his kidney laceration. If he returns this week, we have to play Kincaid. Let's see here. Packers. Luke Musgrave stays limited at practice Wednesday. Okay, so he's practicing again for another consecutive week. We could be in a situation where he plays. If, in fact, Tucker Kraft has Luke Musgrave active, I would probably pivot to Kincaid. Otherwise, Miami against tight ends, they gave up, they only gave up 3 what? I think 2 receptions last week to Likely, but it was all the damage. Against Chicago, It's not bad. It's not a bad matchup. Yeah, for right now, I probably lean towards Kraft if Musgrave's out. I'm assuming he'll probably play, so let's probably lean towards Kincaid because Luke Musgrave most likely is going to be active there, David. Okay, so really what I wanted to do, like I was mentioning earlier, is I wanted to go ahead and just show a couple of these underdog plays, mainly because, let's see here. If I change this and then I go ahead and how do I want to do this? It's not this one, it's this one. So like when I look at these, right, there's only 3 plays for each of these players as of right now. Now, that being said, like I'm taking the higher on this. Like I mean, from what he's done as of late, even earlier this season, if I'm not mistaken, didn't George Pickens have 130 against? Didn't he have 130 against Baltimore earlier this year? He had 130 on 6 catches and a touchdown. So I'm pretty comfortable with the idea. Like, okay, we can take this, but like in terms of some of these other players, considering like Najee only has rushing yards like there's not even a Jalen Warren here. Like I'm still waiting on some of these other potential players, but maybe I can go ahead and put something together here. Maybe just one of these. Yeah, that's not bad. Take both Pickens and Nico Collins going higher on their overall totals. What is Michael Pittman at? 7 catches for 79.5. I'd love to take it, but I don't know if I can. I think it might be too rich for my blood right now. And then everybody else, because they're not playing on Saturday, again, they only have like 1 play. But I'll take that one. I'm going to take that for now. Let's take that. Okay, that's the entry that I put in. But anyway, let me go back to, let's see here. I need to get rid of a couple things here. Boom. All right, cool. And then I can just bring this down accordingly. All righty. Getting back to some of these questions. Francis Manuel said, Brandon Cooks or Brian Robinson Jr.? I'd probably just play Brandon Cooks there. Anadi said, hey, Andrew, just checked. With Kyron out, who should I start at running back, Zamir White or Khalil Herbert? Man, I'm going to keep going back and forth on this probably as the week progresses, but currently I have Zamir White ranked higher. So I'd probably lean towards playing Zamir White. Abide Los Angeles says, are you updated rankings free? What does that mean? I'm assuming you meant, are your updated rankings free? What does that mean exactly? Please expand upon your question, my good sir. Okay, we're going to close that. We're good to go. So any questions that I missed? If anybody typed in a question and I missed it from earlier, please do me a favor and just type it out again or just copy paste it. And that way I can get to it before we close out today's stream. Thank you very much again for those of you guys who have come along to support the channel once again, or potentially are in a week 18 bind of sorts. Hopefully the rankings that I presented yesterday, today, tomorrow, and the next day, and by the time we get to Saturday and Sunday's live streams, we'll be good to go there because I will be presenting rankings there. Abide was saying, are your updated rankings free? By the time we get to Sunday's rankings, like just like we do every Sunday, the rankings are going to be on screen behind me, updated as of that morning. So hopefully we should be good to go. Are your updated rankings free? I don't know why people keep asking that. That doesn't make any sense to me. AJ Brown or Nico Collins? If in fact Devontae Smith is inactive, I'd feel a little bit more comfortable playing AJ Brown. So as of right now, I think Devontae Smith didn't practice today. So I have AJ Brown there out of just pure, like, hey, it's AJ Brown. He deserves to be here. If by the time we get to Sunday and Devontae Smith is 100% go, I'd probably move AJ Brown below Nico Collins. I don't know if he'll be able to pull his weight like he typically does. Quaid says, just stopping by to say thank you for all the help this year. Won 2 of my 6 leagues. Good luck to you in this offseason. I'll be back for content next year. Thank you very much, Quaid. Congratulations on the 2 championships. Abide says thank you. Sorry for the confusion. Thanks, chat and audio. Okay, cool. Eric says Jalen Warren or Jaden Reed. Assuming Jaden Reed plays this week, yeah, he would be the guy that I prefer to play. Let's see here. Mrs. Quaker says, will AJ play the whole game? As in AJ Brown? Probably. I mean, again, if they want to try to win the division, they have to win this game, right? if they're comfortable without winning the division and giving home field to the Dallas Cowboys outright, which I don't think anybody's comfortable being a road dog for the entire playoffs. Very seldom I guess the Cincinnati Bengals did it, right? A couple years back where they're able to go on the road in Tennessee let me think about this. I think they won their division that year, right? They had a home game in the first week against the Raiders. Then they went to Tennessee and beat Tennessee. Then they went to Kansas City and beat Kansas City. And then they went to the Super Bowl. So technically you could be a road dog throughout the whole thing and win it all, not win it all, but at least go to the Super Bowl. But I think more often than not, you want to have that home field advantage. So I would assume that A.J. Brown does play the whole game. That's my assumption as it currently stands. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate it. For all you guys who've showed up, shown support in terms of viewership, clicking the like button, sending in super chats. I appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow with tight end rankings. I'm going to go ahead and cue the music. We've been here for an hour. I'll cue the music. I'll be back tomorrow. Greatly appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you guys. Peace. Abide, I see your question. It says JT, Pollard, Waddle, or Zeke in the flex. Okay, so if we're in a scenario in which, even in a scenario where it's a full PPR or half PPR, I'm probably playing Pollard out of the bunch. Safest play most likely is JT. JT probably gets you like 12 points, pretty solid. Waddle's still dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury. Zeke is always a question mark, but technically as of late has also been another one of those safe alternative options. But I think the Pollard matchup is so enticing that I don't know if I want to give it up. If you just go look at what running backs have done against Washington as of late, it just seems like it's impossible for anyone not to succeed there. So I'd probably lean towards Pollard, as crazy as it sounds. Thank you.